Hello Internet, and welcome to Who Cares, where we're going to discuss and debate the Doctor on his adventures through space and time.
So get ready. I'm sick. I don't want to make a joke. Do I have to make a joke?
No, this is normally where you'd make a joke and I'd put a clip here, but he's sick. So here's the theme song. Hello once again, everyone. Like I said, this is Who Cares. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And sorry this episode's out a little late. Jake, as we said at the beginning, was very ill yesterday and we couldn't record. So
I'm gonna die.
Blame
I'm a
him.
dead person.
Today we're talking about the 5th episode of Series 10 of Doctor Who, and that is Oxygen, which was written by Jamie Matheson of Mummy on the Orient Express and Flatline fame, and directed by Charlie Palmer, who's done a couple episodes during the Tennant era. He did Shakespeare Code, and a couple others. I'm doing it off the top of my head, so I forget the other ones. But he's done some solid episodes. And we went into this episode, if you watched last week, our review of Knock Knock, we were very excited for this episode because both of them have made some of our favorite episodes in the past of New Who. So the verdict on this one, in my opinion, was I wasn't disappointed. I'm glad we finally got to see Matheson tackle a Base Under Siege episode, which are my favorite kind, and I think he did an excellent job.
You know what was one of the things that stands out in Matheson episodes is he immediately took away the Deus Ex Machina of the screwdriver from the Doctor. You know, and that was my favorite part. He just it broke, and he's like, "Okay, can't use it. Can't use the TARDIS, and that's gone. It's got to be about the Doctor now."
You know what I appreciate in a lot. You know, in all the episodes he's written, actually, they take away sort of a Doctor Who trope, and it has to play out differently. And I appreciate that. And there's a lot of it in this episode, which we'll talk about. But just going back to his previous work, Flatline, the Doctor's stuck in the TARDIS the whole episode or 90% of the episode, so he's not out doing the adventure things he normally is able to. So that's a different kind of episode. And then Mummy on the Orient Express, it's more similar to just sort of a Base Under Siege. I would call that one almost a mix between a Base Under Siege and Haunted House episode, kind of a fusion of the two, because there's only one monster, appearing. But still, it was a little different. They had a different dynamic with the companion in that one, so...
Well, and he didn't just, zap it with the thing to fix the problem, you know what I mean?
Sure. For instance, in Smile, second episode of the season, Matheson, if he had written that episode, there wouldn't have just been I'm gonna erase their memories, now everyone get along ending. It probably would have been a little smarter. So this episode opens with, how does this one open? It's been a couple days since I watched it. You're sick, so
they're talking to Nardole, and then he ends up going on the trip with them. There's just some banter at the beginning about how going on trips is against the rules. He took an oath and all that shit.
I remember now. Nardole, by the way, who is in this entire episode, I am growing to love Nardole, and that worries me because I am afraid Moffat will kill him to try and make a point. Keep bringing Clara back 7 times, but kill the one fucking creative companion you've had since Jack Harkness. But anyway, he comes in, and there was actually a cool First Doctor reference here too. I don't know. I doubt you noticed. You don't watch classic Who, but Nardole, when he's coming in and trying to stop the Doctor from traveling anywhere, he says he removed the fluid link, which is a thing on the TARDIS. They didn't just make that up for this episode. And the Doctor says, "Who told you that would make the TARDIS not work?" And he says, "You did." And the Doctor says, "Exactly." And he starts the TARDIS. Funny, good bantery thing. But also, the First Doctor, his second story, I should say, not episode, because they were broken up into 4 episodes per story, sometimes 3 or 5 or whatever. The first time they met the Daleks, what happened was they landed on Skaro. First time the Doctor was on Skaro, and they were like, "Okay, we need to get home, Doctor," because that was the mission at the time, get us home or whatever. And the Doctor's like, "Oh, I want to go explore the city." And they're like, "We can't go explore the city, Doctor. We don't know what it is." And he says, "Oh, we have to explore the city. See this fluid link? It's out of, I want to say he said something like fulminated mercury or some bullshit.
Sure.
But it turned out he was lying. He didn't need the fluid link at all. He just wanted to go explore the city.
That's funny.
So literally using
joke.
The same excuse, and I really enjoy stuff like that, where it works in the episode, but it's also a good continuity nod. So that's fun. But
I like that. I like that because his personality changes every time. I like that he still has go-tos.
Yes, I do like that. So they land on the base, and everyone's dead. The oxygen's gone. If you watch the show, you know the TARDIS has an air bubble. It extends throughout the whole place. And by the way, there's sort of a plot hole in this episode that bugged me. The point was the TARDIS filled the place with oxygen, despite it being illegal to do so, because it ruins the market value. It's a thinly veiled anti-capitalism message, which I think was handled better than it was in Thin Ice, by the way. But we'll talk about that later. If the TARDIS can expand its air shell throughout the ship, it should be able to do it in like a bubble around the entire station. So even if they open the doors, it doesn't, have explosive decompression.
Have it leak. I was fine with it, but especially because, like, right before that, his, like, screwdriver got broken. So maybe how he controlled... Because he went like this and then did it.
Oh, okay. I must have missed
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I got you.
So after he did that, it got broken and then he couldn't redo it, maybe?
I guess I assumed that was just, like, an automatic thing the TARDIS did. Because sometimes it does need an air bubble.
It has that little one around it. Like, when he the last Doctor held Amy's hand and she's floating outside of it.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a thing. I could explain that away. I think Matheson would say he needs the thing to control it.
Probably.
Because that's how he did it the first time.
Sure.
But yeah, it could be a plot hole or not. But either way, I thought it was kind of funny that it was like foreign oxygen. We're taking that back and you can't have it. What a terrible business plan, though. Like a terrible business model altogether.
Oh, I didn't mind because it's clearly just a...
Oh, I know exactly what it is. I'm
metaphor.
just saying, like, if you're a business, putting someone on a space station where they have to work for the oxygen, what if someone got sick? What if I got sick, hypothetically speaking, and couldn't work for a day, hypothetically speaking, and then our thing came out late, also hypothetically, I would die in the interim.
Well, I think the point is, and this is why I think it worked better than Thin Ice. Thin Ice, the message of don't, use up people in enterprise, people are more important than profits. Yeah. I think the problem with that episode was the message was the people in charge of companies or in charge of money are just assholes, and that's why it doesn't work. Whereas in this one, the fault he found in capitalism was it's not that people are malicious, it's that when all they focus on is the bottom line, they make decisions that not only are bad for people, it's probably bad for them in the long run, but they don't see that because they're thinking quarterly. Like he said, we're not fighting an alien, we're fighting a spreadsheet. How do you fight a spreadsheet? And
right, exactly. And that's shown by the way he actually defeats the baddie in this one, which is just the corporation, which is super interesting, actually. By making it unprofitable to kill everybody.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw that coming from about halfway through the episode, maybe earlier. When you understood, it's a money thing, which comes pretty early, I kind of assumed that was gonna happen. Well, all he has to do is make it more expensive to kill him. Fine. But I thought it was creative. I'm glad we didn't just get, Sonic the suits off or whatever, and I do appreciate that. But for me, the strength of the episodes, as is the strength of the episodes earlier in the season, save maybe Knock Knock, the companion interactions and throwing Nardole in there really, really made this episode work, because you have the new companion who is asking all these questions, which, as we've mentioned, is always fun and interesting, and you get to learn new things about the universe of Doctor Who. But it's not just that. Nardole's been watching the Doctor for 70 years. He's technically, other than Handles the robot, probably the longest continuous companion for the Doctor. So he knows his shit. He's also explaining stuff and doing stuff, and the Doctor can delegate to him. The Doctor doesn't have to go over the computer and look at the records. He says, Nardole, can you go look over at the records for me while I talk to Bill?
Sure.
And I like that dynamic. I like that you have the Doctor, who's obviously the most experienced, Nardole, who's familiar with space and aliens and comfortable with that stuff, but, he's still a guy. And then you have Bill, who is way over her head, but still just doing the best she can. It's a good dynamic.
I actually really liked this episode, specifically for the ship Bill went through.
Sure.
She basically had to die for a second, air quotes, because it wasn't like fully all the way. And he's like, I know what it takes to kill somebody, whatever. He knew the suit was fucked up, but that he chose to have her go through that because that was the best course of action is a very doctor-y thing. And so I really appreciated that, and then just her having to experience that, and then the whole helmet swap thing off camera is kind of nice. I like it when when the Doctor sort of sacrifices for the people, even though they're lessers, like by any measurement, they're less valuable than he is. He doesn't see it that way. He's always sort of, the Doctor isn't very subjective, if that makes sense. Like, everything is objectively, everyone's important to him, and
Sure.
every experience is important, and even to the point where he's willing to go blind for his friend. I don't know, I thought that was interesting.
Sure. I'm trying to think to myself, has the Doctor ever been ejected into the vacuum of space before or been exposed to it? I'm trying to think, because I know Time Lords in canon, they can go without air for quite a bit longer than humans. Not just because their probably blood's a little bit more oxygenated because of the two hearts, but I don't know why.
Also, they're just like physiologically, like,
sure,
he's a little bit stronger and a little bit more adept at things. Like, Matt Smith's Doctor was really good at soccer for like no reason.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm just trying to think. Has there ever? I like to look for plot holes, not because I want to hate the show, but just because I'm into that kind of stuff. I want to try and find holes in things. I'm trying to think. Has he ever been exposed to the vacuum of space before? Because I don't know that much about the science of the vacuum of space, but the speech he gave at the beginning about, the liquid in your eyeballs starts to boil because of the lack of pressure. That is true, actually. Without pressure, things boil.
It's basically the bends because of the way you're depressurized so fast. It's like super bends.
Super bends. Yeah. But the thing is, it boils because of the lack of pressure, not because it gets really hot or anything. It's not any hotter. It's just that boiling is a function of, if you don't know, the reason something boils is because you've added enough energy to it that even under the atmospheres of pressure, the molecules can escape. So that's why under no pressure, the molecules can escape from the water and boil, even though it's not hot.
But you need the liquid on your eyeballs to keep them lubricated.
I know,
to see.
but
so I think that's kind of what they were going for.
How long were they out there? Is what I'm trying.
Well, they
to
don't
think.
say, because the way they edited it was like,
I guess you're right.
They kind of gave. I think it was intentionally ambiguous.
Okay.
It could have been as long as it takes for him to be alive and also go blind, but you know what I mean. It's any number of seconds or minutes that it would take to do that. Basically, is how long it was.
Oh, you know what else I appreciated about the episode? There was one thing that I went, and usually in Doctor Who, there's at least one thing I'll go, what? Why X? Why did this happen? And then when they're about to leave and go out of the space station, and they're about to put the helmets on, I turned to my girlfriend who likes the show too, and we watch it together, and I go, why are they putting helmets on? They just explained that the helmets are like invisible. And then immediately Bill asks the question, and the Doctor says like, oh no, it can't handle the vacuum. Like, thanks for writing that in. I appreciate that they, actually.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. It was kind of pointless. Like, you could always just say that they just work in the vacuum. That's totally fine. But I think optics-wise, it doesn't work as well, especially if you have that opening scene without them wearing helmets in the vacuum of space. You're like, what?
Yeah.
So I just think visually it makes more sense for them to have helmets when they're outside. But
sure.
There was one thing some people were groaning about a little bit, and that was the small bit about racism, which I don't understand why.
I liked that.
I thought that was interesting. Also, is that blue guy the same race as the other blue guy that was he got his head chopped off by the headless monks?
I believe so. Yeah.
At Demon's Run.
See, I liked that bit because it was a flip on what had happened in Thin Ice when Bill was treated with racism, but in this case, she was perceived as the racist. I thought that was funny and interesting. And then, secondly, she says,
I experienced that
I
too.
experienced racism.
Why?
And the blue guy goes, why? And I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but this was a nice bit of subtle, I want to say direction. I assume someone told her to do this. I think not Matheson, the other guy, I'm sorry, the director told her to do this. There's a quick shot, because immediately after he says that, it switches camera angles to a different camera, but she's not in the foreground anymore, but she's smiling in the background. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed that, but I thought to myself, that is such a hopeful thing for Doctor Who to imply, that in the future, racism is such a non-issue, they wouldn't even understand why she would be experiencing prejudice, and now it's a speciesist thing. That's nice.
Also, is there a lot of racism in England not focused on Muslims? Because I know the Muslim racism is obvious. That makes sense. But like black racism, because the institution of slavery isn't nearly as what it was in America, so that makes sense. Like culturally, like we are racist in some sectors of the country because of the segregation and just kind of how it's been. It hasn't even been like 100 years since any of that's happened. But in England, it's been a long, long time.
I can't speak for, the culture of another country, but I would guess, and if anyone's from the UK in here, please feel free to chime in.
That's why I'm asking.
Racism exists everywhere. I assume it's worse
yeah.
in the US because of our history with it. But
The way that they bring it up for her character, is it that much in England?
I'm sure it still exists.
I could just be ignorant of how it is, but most of the racism I see from English people is directed at Muslims, and not to get off topic, but I understand the vitriol. I don't agree with it, but I understand it at least because they have a tenuous relationship with the Muslim world.
Skinheads were a big thing in the UK like decades ago. I'm sure they still exist, but you know what I mean?
Oh,
I don't
know. It's weird. Skinheads were bombing your shit before that, man. Like,
you mean Nazis? You mean actual Nazis?
Yeah, actual Nazis, dude.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, enough about that. I just thought that was funny. I thought the interactions with Nardole, there were only a couple, but it cracked me up when Nardole noticed that the AI voice was he had an actress ex-girlfriend who happened to be the voice for the AI.
Yeah, isn't that great? That was so silly, but yeah, I liked it. And then, it also makes me think like he's from this relative time area.
Considering he was traveling with River Song and we don't know how long that was for, I would assume the Doctor was not his first experience with time travel.
That makes sense.
I'm guessing he had been on several adventures with her at least already, but who knows? Not to mention, he's been with the Doctor for 70 years. You know what I mean?
True.
And, they sort of imply the Doctor has been staying put for all 70 of those years up until now. I somehow doubt that. Once this era is sort of over and they go back and do, like, Big Finish audios and comic books and more novels, I assume they will fill in some time, that 70 years where Nardole and him were hanging out,
Yeah.
Seems like the kind of thing they do, but...
No sneak peek of the vault in this one.
You know why? It is online. There is a sneak peek, but it's spoilery, so I think they intentionally left it off. Would you like me to talk about it? Because I did see it. I searched it out.
Okay, let's talk about it. Because hey, and just so everyone knows, this is spoilery.
Yes. So the next time trailer. It's, I forget what the episode's called, sorry, but the premise is the Pope comes to the Doctor, or an envoy.
Because he's blind still, I guess we should mention that.
Oh, by the way, I do like that that's a consequence that is going to continue, and he's going to be trying to solve next week's... And he tried to solve, again, the Matheson thing where, again, because this is a series thing, I think Moffat, said do this, but still, in the Matheson episode, it's cool that the Doctor was working with that limitation, but that's continuing. So, in this episode... people from the Vatican come to the Doctor because they're aware of him, apparently. That doesn't shock me. They're important in history. I'm sure they would have had some run-ins in the past. And they say, listen, Doctor, we need your help. At the Vatican, there's this book that apparently whenever anyone reads it, they commit suicide immediately after, and no one knows why, because anyone who reads the book kills himself. Or whatever.
And he can't see it, so he wouldn't be able to read it. So that's probably
I assume that
convenient affliction.
Yes, I assume it'll play into it. But we also get sneak peeks of the monster, which is creepy. This looks to be sort of a horror episode. And we see... Next episode is the episode where it's supposed to reveal what's behind the door.
I saw a real quick flash of Missy at the very end.
And yeah, Missy is shown in the next time trailer, which makes me think it is not John Sims Master. It is definitely Missy in the room.
In the vault.
Now, here's what I think. Well, I think it being Missy is a lame twist. I think the twist is going to be not who's in the room, because at this point I think we're all like 90% sure it's Missy. I think the reason she's in the room is going to be more interesting. I think what's going to happen is it's going to turn out the Doctor's not trying to lock her in there to protect the world from her. I think it's going to turn out some bigger threat is coming after the Master, and the Doctor is trying to protect the Master against her will, because she thinks she can handle it, but the Doctor's like, no, you can't handle this. I'm going to lock you here. You'll be safe. You're my friend.
The way he cares for that, whoever is behind there with the food and the story time and the kind of just the way he touches the wall.
Yeah.
Because like him and the Master, they are friends. It's like basically his only friend. That's also a Time Lord. There's like a love there. And I think the Tennant-Sim relationship was actually the best case of this. But I think Missy has the capability to like be better than that.
I like the Tenet thing because it was the Doctor trying to throw this like lifeline of, please, let's just go and we'll be friends and we're the last of the Time Lords. Please come with me and it'll be okay. Yeah. But
Tenet
of course,
really sold that shit too.
But Sim was so not that. He was like, no, I don't care if the rest of the Time Lords are dead. I still hate you, and I'm still going to take over the world. Whereas Capaldi and Missy, it's a more reciprocal friendship. Missy is friends with the Doctor and wants to, hang out with him, even though hanging out with him includes trying to kill him. She just thinks that's fun. What else? Oh, and I'm almost certain that's what's going to happen because in the next time trailer, he also mentions, I can't do this. He's talking to someone you don't see, but then you see Missy in the trailer, so I guarantee it's her. He says, like, I need your help. I'm implying because of his blindness. I can't do this on my own. Will you please come help me? And even within the structure of the episode, if Missy's in it, if it wasn't her in the vault, how is Missy coming to this situation? You know what I mean? How does Missy get involved in this if she's not in the vault? So I assume what's going to happen is one of two things.
It could be her book in the Vatican.
It could be. I'm assuming one of two things is going to happen. Either the beginning of the episode, the people from the Vatican are going to come ask the Doctor for help, and he will immediately say yes. But then he will go down to the vaults and immediately get Missy and say, I need your help. Come with me. And it'll be sort of a Doctor, Bill, maybe Nardole. I didn't really see him in the trailer that much, so I don't think he'll be along on this adventure. Maybe a stinger at the beginning or end. Speaking of which, Nardole yelling at the Doctor at the end of, we forgot to mention it, this episode, Oxygen, was excellent. I actually think Matt Lucas did a really good job. He's normally comedic, but I believed him being that upset at the Doctor. But I don't think he'll be in the full episode next week. So either he'll get Missy from the beginning and it'll be a Dr. Bill Missy episode and they all go on the adventure, or halfway through the episode, the Doctor will realize he can't do it on his own and he will bring Missy in. I don't know. So
that'd be interesting. I kind of want to see what Nardole's reaction to that's going to be, because he's definitely going to have something to do with the opening of that vault.
I'd think so. What could happen, this would be very too jokey for me, too obvious. Sure. But the Doctor at the beginning of the episode goes and pulls Missy out. Nardole shows up immediately after, sees the vault is open, and has some reaction, a comedic reaction. That seems like something they might do, but
maybe a little bit. Also, it'd be kind of funny if they did the equivalent of the stuffed animal with the wig under the blankets sort of thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, I don't know, that could be kind of fun if he peeks inside Caesar and whatever, and then I think that's a doctor-y thing. That he would have the gall to try to hide it with some simple mechanics. I don't know.
So overall, I thought this was a solid episode. Again, I'm not kidding. I obviously need to see more. Matheson has only written 3 episodes, but next year the new showrunner comes on, the same guy that did Broadchurch. He'll probably stay on for 3 to 5 years, just like the previous showrunners. Matheson, to me, his characterization of the Doctor, how he handles episodes, he doesn't like Deus Ex Machina. In the future, if he wants, I would love for him to come on as showrunner. Not right away. He needs more under his belt, obviously. Moffat wrote a lot more than 3 episodes before he got put on. But right now, Matheson, I could easily see being vetted for future showrunner position stuff. And that'd be great.
I know that they're doing a writer's room in this next batch. I hope he's in that room.
The thing about the writer's room is, they'll have to have a staff of writers that they actively keep on the payroll and not just one-offs. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I guess I don't know Matheson's position, but it almost seems to me that anyone who's good enough that they felt they're good enough to helm an entire episode of Doctor Who by themselves would cost too much to just keep on the payroll as a writer on the staff, if that makes sense.
Well, I guess, but like for instance, in The West Wing, Aaron Sorkin was the writer there, but other people get writing credits. He's just like, you have the head writer, you have the showrunner, which is a totally different person altogether, and then you have everybody else. So I don't know. I think it could totally work. And if Matheson is one of the voices in that room, I think that would be fantastic. And even so, you can have a writer's room and then have people, like, it could be written by just one of them. and then edited by the rest of them. So they all get writing credits later,
sure.
but written by the first person that comes up with the idea for the show.
So you'd almost have you'd still have a writer every episode, or at least some of the episodes,
right.
and then they just they would tweak the script and punch it up. That makes sense. That's fine.
And I think having people say no, that's a dumb idea, or this is a fantastic idea, or we can expand this idea is a fantastic collaborative way to make really good stuff. Because the problem with Moffat is that he doesn't get told no enough. That's his biggest problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are drawbacks and benefits to sort of script by committee as well. I totally understand that it can be strangling to the creative process. But sometimes, like maybe the writing process a little bit like light BDSM. Sometimes the writing process needs to get strangled just a little bit to keep it in line. You know what I mean? So
it's the only way it can feel anymore.
Yeah. So that's it. Can I just point out again, we're 5 episodes in. Next episode will be halfway through the season, I want to say.
Thin Ice is my least favorite so far, and it was a good episode.
Knock Knock was my least favorite, but I don't think it was as awful as some people did. I think it's still watchable. It's just a little more boring and flat. But I
guess I just really liked the old guy, and I really liked the Doctor in that episode. I guess everything else was kind of bleh. But
this is, I think, my favorite season of Doctor Who probably since
Matt
the
Smith's first season.
I was gonna say like Matt Smith's either second or third season, but only the half with the Pawns. Even when Clara was new, I was intrigued by the mystery, but she was never that interesting of a character. So yeah, I guess I'm just enjoying it because I like the companions, I like the characters they're putting on screen more, and I don't know. What else can he ask for? So I hope you're all enjoying the season as much as we are. I mean, good for Capaldi. I'm glad he's getting to leave on a high note. Cause
so far, it could totally go downhill.
I still think even in this season, which I think by recent standards is better, I still think he deserves better scripts than he's getting because, God, Capaldi can act the shit.
I think we're going to get some really good monologues later on.
Yeah, so we got to... I think the next part's
due.
The 3-parter. I want to say this next episode is the beginning of the 3-part episode.
It's got to be the master story, then.
It's got to be. Either that, or are they considering it 3 parts because he was blinded in this episode, and then maybe it's just a normal 2-parter, the next 2, but they're counting
sense, I guess.
I don't know.
Anyways, that would take us to episode 9, right?
Yes. And I believe there are 12 episodes this season. I want to say. Could be wrong.
I don't think 12 is a number.
Oh, well, 12. Anyway, you know what sucks? They can't do a clock metaphor anymore for the regenerations. That's over now. 13th Doctor.
Well, you could do military time.
No, that comes when we get to that's the year 5 million when we have the 1300th Doctor.
Is that a thing?
It's 1300. Yes, you don't say 13 o'clock in military time. You say like 1300 hours, 1400 hours.
I say 13 o'clock.
Oh, well. I don't know if that's the fever or you're just real dumb. Anyway, thanks everyone. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
I got a fever.
Is the only cure more cowbell?
God, no. That won't help at all. It'll just give me a headache.
Oh, well.
Fucking come near me, Christopher Walken.
I was just going to say, Walken is a lot of things. A doctor isn't one of them. Anyway, this has been Unpopular Culture. Who cares? Bye, everyone. Everyone wish Jake to get better.
I'm gonna die!